When I am called to duty, God, whatever flames may rage, give me strength to save some life, whatever be its age. Help me embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert and hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to feel my calling and to give the best in me, to guard my every neighbor and protect his property. And if, according to my fate, I am to lose my life, please bless your protecting hand with my children and my wife.
Thank you, Chief Melquist. Tim was many things in his service-filled life. Andrea, Tim's wife, would like to share some of the Tim she knows with you. Andrea.
Good afternoon, everybody. My husband, Tim Bertz, was certainly a lot of things, and he absolutely did a lot more things. He had a full life by the time he was 22 years old. By then, he had traveled the world, fought enemies, saved lives, found refuge in the most beautiful of places during R&R, and after all of those different experiences, he just wanted to come home and spend time with me. At the very end of our long-distance relationship, while he was still in the military, he had job offers that included high levels of pay, which also included paying for my college. But the job offers were extremely dangerous, and he wouldn't be around too much due to the nature of the job. We were tired of being away from each other, and we talked about it greatly. But in the end, he wanted to come home, back to Minnesota to be with me, and I'm glad he did. Even when we didn't have a lot of money, we still had each other. Having a long-distance relationship in the mid-90s meant random phone calls in the middle of the night, like 3, 4 a.m. When the phone rang at that time, my parents knew I was getting it, and I jumped out of bed, running to the phone to catch it before the last ring occurred, just hoping it would be the sound of his voice coming from some random part of the world. We wrote letters, not emails or texts, to each other constantly. Sometimes I would get 5 of them all at once in the mail. I tried to figure out the timeline by the postage stamp, but in the end, I was just glad to hear from him, even if I read them out of order. We saved those letters, and just last night, I started to read some of them. Boy, we were young, and the things that we wrote about just still make me smile. Every so often, he would be back in the States, and we would try our best to see each other. Me flying out to Virginia Beach, or him coming home to Minnesota. We would spend every single moment together. I loved him, and he loved me. We were fortunate to be able to make it work throughout the next few decades, where we grew up together and made our relationship work with the changes that life had for us. When he got out of the Navy, we immediately moved in together and lived in his great-grandmother's home while she was at a retirement center. That year was very challenging for him. He had a hard time becoming a civilian again. He got his first dog, Bud, a German wire hair pointer, that I would now consider him to be a therapy dog for Tim. Bud went everywhere with him. Tim and Bud hunted as much as they could, oftentimes spending the weekends at his Uncle Randy's duck shack near Alexandria. I tried going a few times, but in the end, duck hunting was too early in the morning, too cold, and I really didn't enjoy sleeping bunk bed style next to snoring men. So I wanted to spend the weekends differently. Tim really enjoyed those times, and I tried to be an understanding and supportive girlfriend at the time. Over the course of a couple of years, moving to another home we rented in St. Paul, just south of Como Park, north of University Avenue, we decided city life was enough for us. I was getting close to graduating with a teaching degree, so if we did move, commuting wouldn't be forever. Tim wanted to be in the country with some space so he could find peace in his life. I didn't want to teach in the city and wanted a more rural work experience. So we looked for an hour north of the metro and found the home that we still have today. We both have said that, and I still say it today, that it was the best decision for us personally and financially. We really did find a hidden gem, and I'm not about to let it go. We made it our home, and I will continue keeping it our home. Everything reminds me of him there, and I want to be close to those memories. After buying our home about a year later, we decided to get married. By then, we lived together for just about 5 years. We didn't want a traditional wedding because we were not a traditional couple. So we decided to do a destination wedding and got married in Negril, Jamaica, on the west side of the island and at sunset. It was perfect. We had our immediate family fly there to join us at the all-inclusive resort. We tried to get married on the anniversary of our first date, December 28th. But they were booked with other weddings, so we settled on December 30th. As the years went by, we always acknowledged and celebrated both of those dates. He never complained to me about it, always aware and wanting to have a special dinner either at home or going out together. He was good to me that way. Yesterday, we would have celebrated 31 years since our first date, which was a blind date set up by both of our friends when he was home from the Navy. Thank you, Sarah and Jason. You changed both of our lives for the better. We went to the Jim Carrey movie, Dumber and Dumber, and when we said goodbye at the end of the night, he gave me a hug and we exchanged phone numbers. And tomorrow, we would have celebrated 24 years of marriage. This time of the year has always been an important time in a relationship, now even more so. Tim's life has been about service for others. He served in the U.S. Navy as a SEAL. He was awarded medals doing extraordinary things. I will not go into the stories he shared with me, handpicking them in order to save me from what his nightmares were really about. I learned early on that his experiences in the Navy were his story to tell and not mine. If others that served with him want to share those stories, that is up to them and not me. And I respect that, and I will continue to do so. The service toward others continued later in the last number of years by becoming a firefighter, first volunteering at Harris FD, then professionally at Lino Lakes FD. He was cut too short to make it to his first day on the job at St. Paul Fire Department, graduating from the academy on December 17th and officially passing on December 22nd. He absolutely loved being a firefighter. He joined the Navy to become a firefighter, but the Navy saw other skills that led him down the road to become a SEAL. So I'm glad that he was able to finish with that dream job of being a firefighter. He lived and breathed firefighting and helping others. When his pager went off at home, he would immediately stop doing whatever he was doing, get changed quickly, put his shoes on, and run out the door. I also helped him to leave quickly because I knew it was important to him to be the first on the engine out of the fire hall. I would get our 4 dogs out of the way and then run out to the garage, pull his truck out, and have the door open so he could hop right in and take off. He loved racing to the fire hall and absolutely hated if he got behind someone going slow. I supported him wholeheartedly with his all-in attitude of firefighting. He had excellent communication skills, confidence, and lots of in-the-field medical experience that he honed while being in the military. I was glad that he wanted to help our community and our neighbors. I always felt that if you were the one having your worst days medically or with a fire in your home, you would want my husband showing up at your door. He would do everything in his power to save you. He was brave, smart, and skilled at doing his job. I am so proud of what he has done for our country and for our community. His family and I tried to find many different pictures of him to show the depth of who he was. It's been fun talking about him to others who have only known him in one way. I have called him a chameleon many of times because of this. He had the ability to change his look to whatever he wanted and to be whoever he wanted to be. He even could blend into nature, where I walked by literally right by him and I wouldn't see him. He had lots and lots of hobbies and interests. It will take me years to organize, but it will be okay, because I will be able to remember all those wonderful times that we had together. He was insanely smart and quick-witted, which at times bothered me beyond belief. His level of intelligence and ability to remember pretty much everything was amazing, but it was really hard to argue a point with that man if he believed the other side to be true. Tim even got his philosophy teacher at a community college to say to him in front of the class that he had to rethink his faith because of what he said. Thinking about all those things Tim was, and as I look around this auditorium full of people who want to honor him and pay their respects to him, I see him. I see him in all of you. Each of you has a piece of Tim inside of you. It may have been an interaction with him that made you think more deeply about something. Or maybe it was his infectious smile that took hold of you and found laughter in something funny he said. Maybe it was something that he did that caught your attention or learned after he did it. He caught my attention and held it for almost 31 years. I would like to take a picture of all of you to remind me of him. All right, one last story. At the Harris Vigil for Tim on last Friday, Harris Fire Department Captain Gabby Streeter told a story about Tim being okay about listening to an Eric Church song while they were working together, because I liked Eric Church, so it was okay with him. It reminded me of a time when I was on a field trip with students, and while on the bus, an Eric Church song came on the radio. A couple of female students asked me if I thought Eric Church was hot because they thought he was. With no hesitation, I said, "No one compares to my husband." The girls just smiled weirdly at me, but I did get a good chuckle out of the bus driver. But it is true. No one compares to him in my world. No one has, and I believe no one will as time goes by. He was an amazing man, and I'm so glad I was able to spend that amount of time that I was able to do so with him. I feel blessed and sad all at the same time. I will deeply miss my husband. Rest in peace, Tim, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. By all accounts, Katie, Tim's sister, had a special bond with Tim growing up and throughout their adulthood. Katie?
Wow, thank you for all being here for my brother. Although my brother Tim was a newer member to this amazing family of the brotherhood and sisterhood of firefighters, but he was my brother first. You have to go all the way back to 1977, 48 if you're counting, when my brother first started the job. From the start, and being almost 5 years older than me, Tim was a true definition of a great big brother. I recently figured out ChatGPT. I know. And so I asked it, what makes a great brother? Here's what the answer was. A great brother is a leader, someone who shows up, a teacher, a protector, someone with patience, and at the heart of it all is love. When I was born, Tim was very excited to welcome his baby sister. If anyone asked my name, he happily told them my name was Baby Bertz. He had everyone calling me Baby Bertz, from neighbors to relatives to friends. And by the time I was 4, my mom had to sit him down and say, Tim, you have to stop calling her Baby Bertz, or she's going to go to kindergarten and not even know her name anymore. The name may have changed to Katie, but in my heart, I think a little bit of Baby Bertz remained. It was around that time that I started getting scared at night. So, being the patient brother Tim was, he let me sleep in his room, on the floor, of course. But I didn't care. I knew I had my big brother there to protect me. Proving Tim's patience even more, I stayed there for another good 3 to 4 years longer, till I was 8, and Tim was a very generous and sweet 13-year-old teenager. What kind of big brother lets his sister sleep on her floor, even as a teenager? That was Tim. Growing up, we had the picturesque childhood. 2 absolutely amazing parents who spoiled us rotten, or as my mom likes to say, loved us a lot. She did. They did. We had a beautiful home and a yard, a pool, and on a lake, fields as far as you could see. But looks can be deceiving. On the inside, my dad was fighting for his life against autoimmune pancreatitis, and our house became a hospital. My dad spent most of our childhood in and out of the hospital. We could go to bed not knowing who'd be there when we woke up in the morning. At one point, my dad was hospitalized for 6 months straight. Tim was the only constant I knew during these difficult times. It changed us and created between us an unbreakable bond that many could never understand. No matter where or with who we ended up staying with, while my dad was in the hospital, my mom at his bedside, Tim and I were always together. It was during this time Tim perfected his leadership skills and was always there, showing up for just me. He was all I had at times, and the only one who understood how difficult the journey that we walked really was. Tim held my hand and was a guiding force throughout my life. Tim taught me how to catch turtles from the lake, frogs from the pool. We played Star Wars and Hot Wheels. I don't understand, but we never played dolls or Barbies. Tim taught me how to play G.I. Joe. Who knew he'd turn out to be my real American hero? Tim entered the military as I was entering high school. The loss of him being there beside me was some days unbearable. But in Tim fashion, a sent letter to me always showed up. I loved getting the mail. Maybe not as much as Andrea, but I loved getting the mail. I would quickly reply with all the horrors of high school and life back home. I sure did miss him. I sure will miss him. When Tim joined the Harris Fire Department, we all began to see a new Tim, happier. Each step Tim took in his fire career made him happy. I was blessed to be present when Tim received his badge at the St. Paul Fire Department Academy graduation last week. I've never seen Tim so happy, except when he married Andrea. Tim's final act of giving was his decision to donate life. Just on Wednesday, December 17th, after graduating from the academy, Tim went and renewed his license. He marked once again in the donor box for organ donation. Organ donation has touched our family very closely, as we now have been on both sides of the donor process. Last December, my son, Tim's first ever nephew, was diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma, a rare form of bile duct cancer that spread to his liver. Without an organ donation, Josh has a 0% survival chance. Josh is currently number 1 on the male donor list, waiting for a liver. For 3 long days, we hoped and prayed Tim could be a donor for Joshy. Unfortunately, God had other plans, and it didn't work. I am so happy, though, that families in our position of waiting for an organ received my brother's Christmas gift of life. Tim's liver went to a 33-year-old female, his lungs to a 65-year-old male. Both kidneys will help numerous people through research. Corneas were recovered to help someone with the gift of sight, and tissue recovered to go on and help 75+ people. What a special gift and a hero Tim is. Please, please consider organ donation to help save lives. Tim was many things to many people, but to me, he was my big brother. He's been a leader who's always showed up. He's been a patient protector who's taught me so many life lessons. Those things never changed throughout our lives together. Most importantly, Tim was love. He was loved and he loved so incredibly much. If I ever needed him, and oh, I have, I've always known Tim is just a phone call away. What will I do now?
Hi, Katie. Just wanted to call and say happy birthday. I'm just starting a 14-hour shift down in Lino, so I won't be able to talk to you. Hope you're having a good day. I love you. Bye.
I love you too, Tim.
Thank you, Katie. Tim began his fire service career as a firefighter EMT with the Harris Fire Department and has been there for the last 3 years. Please welcome Chief Drew Chapeau on behalf of the Harris Fire Department family. Chief.
Two tough speakers to follow. Hope I can hold up. All in, all the time. You will hear those words when someone talks about Tim Bertz. That was his motto, and he was the embodiment of those words within his family, his friendship, and the fire service and beyond. As the fire chief of Harris, I had the privilege of hiring Tim in 2023 and working side by side with him. The moment I met Tim, I knew we had one of the good ones. Being the chief, I saw the professional side of Tim. It was, yes, chief, no, chief, whatever you need, chief. But there was, when he was with his crew, he was jovial, and he enjoyed the poker and cigar nights that we so randomly have. Tim was more than his turnouts in uniforms. He was a friend who, at a moment's notice, would drop what he was doing and help others with some comedic relief. At my home, personally, I have constant reminders of Tim's helping hand. Mainly him being the muscle, the machinery, laughs, conversations, trials and errors, like when we tried to put up my chicken coop roof and it collapsed on us. We also had a mutual love for hunting and all things outdoors. My son and I have the privilege of hunting his property every year, and this proud dad moment, my son shot his first buck on Tim's property, and Tim was there to cheer him on. Tim adored Andrea. They built a life together that many of us would envy. His strength, his love, his compassion, and the standard he set is something that we can all strive to emulate. The words spoken today cannot take away the pain that we feel in the loss of firefighter Tim Bertz. Yet gathering as a community, much like Tim did through his life of service, allows us to begin processing the heal. It reminds us of what's truly important and gives renewed purpose to our lives as we honor the dedication, courage, selflessness Tim exemplified. To Tim's fellow firefighters, we lost one of our brothers, his steady, familiar voice and presence, a true brother in the brotherhood. The fire service is a family unlike any other. That bond does not end here. The stories shared, the experiences we had, will live on in the Harris Fire family forever. But as we say goodbye with heavy hearts, let us honor Tim, not only in words, but in our actions, by caring for one another, by serving our communities with selfless pride. Firefighter Tim, gone from our sights, but never from our hearts. Rest easy, Tim. We've got it from here. All in, all the time. Just want to thank everyone for all the love and support that you've given to Tim's family and to the Harris Fire family and to all the other departments and their families as well. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Chief Chapeau. As Tim's father, Rick, would tell you, Tim had a problem sitting still. Furthermore, his desire to help people pushed him to serve wherever he could. Once Tim was trained and certified as a firefighter and completed his EMT training, he also joined the Lino Lakes Fire Department. Chief Dan Lallier would like to speak on behalf of the Lino Lakes Fire Department. Chief.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Lino Lakes Fire Department, I want to thank everyone for being here today to honor Tim Bertz. Tim's time with Lino Lakes Fire Department was brief by calendar dates, but profound by impact. Tim was hired as a Lino Lakes duty crew firefighter on October 22nd, 2024. About a year later, he made the difficult decision to resign in order to pursue another dream, and that was to become a St. Paul firefighter. Tim's year was impactful. He was honest, he was upfront, and he never lost sight of what mattered to him: service, purpose, and doing the job the right way. Tim carried a lot of influence over everyone when he was here. He arrived during a critical time for our department, when we were transitioning from a public safety model to a standalone fire department. That kind of change requires trust, teamwork, and people willing to step up. Tim was monumental in that transition. He would share his experience, he offered perspective, and he always gave credit where credit was due. Tim never needed to be the loudest voice in the room, he just needed to be the honest one. He worked hard, he showed up, and he made those around him better. And when I say he showed up, I mean it in every sense of the word. Our duty crew shift starts at 0600. For Tim, that didn't mean pulling into the parking lot at 0600. It meant that by 0600, trucks were checked, gear was ready to go, and he was prepared to respond the second the tones dropped. He believed deeply in the phrase, all in, all the time. And he lived it, quietly, consistently, professionally. He set a standard not by talking about expectations, but by meeting them every single day. One of the last things Tim did for Lino Lakes also speaks volumes about the kind of firefighter and person he was. Near the end of his time with us, Tim helped interview duty crew candidates and took part in selecting the next members of the Lino Lakes Fire Department. He cared deeply about who would come after him. He understood that the department's future depended on choosing the right people, people with integrity, humility, and heart for service. That means Tim's legacy doesn't just live in memories. It lives in every firefighter who wears our patch, answers the call, and carry forward the values he believed in. His influence will continue through them long after his time here officially ended. It's also important to recognize the strong connection between our departments. Tim wasn't the first firefighter from Harris. Several firefighters from Harris have also served alongside us here. And between Gabby, Josh, and Tim, it became very clear that the Harris Fire Department holds a significant place within the Lino Lakes Fire Department family. Those relationships matter. They strengthen us, and Tim was a bridge between our departments, someone who embodied what partnership, mutual respect, and shared mission truly looked like. We will never forget the impact Tim made on this department and how deeply he cared, how honestly he worked, and how meaningful he contributed. But most of all, we are grateful for relationships he helped build, for the partnerships that will continue, and for the brotherhood and sisterhood that will endure because of him. Tim Bertz served with integrity. He served with heart. He was all in all the time, and he will always be part of the Lino Lakes Fire Department family. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. As you have heard and can see, Tim fell in love with firefighting for its ability to help people and had long thought of joining the St. Paul Fire Department. That dream came true on October 27th when Tim brought his experience, attitude, and drive to St. Paul. Here to speak on behalf of the St. Paul Fire Department is Fire Chief Butch Inks.
Professional, respectful, had integrity, sense of duty, had honor, was a hero, he was brave, desire to help people, ride or die, all in all the time. And I will never let you down. These are words and phrases that have been said to describe Tim, and words Tim has said and lived by. And it's no accident Tim lived a life of service. I'm Butch Inks. I'm the Fire Chief of the St. Paul Fire Department, and today we come together with heavy hearts to honor the life and service of Firefighter Timothy Bertz. Tim's life with the St. Paul Fire Department was far too short. But his life of service was long. It was intentional and it was meaningful. His journey did not begin with us. It began years earlier with a decision to serve something greater than himself. Tim was a decorated military veteran, and when that chapter of his life came to an end, his calling to serve did not. He was looking for a way to continue serving after leaving the military, and he found that purpose in the fire and EMS service. Service wasn't something Tim did. It's really who he was. Tim carried his military discipline and life experience into the fire service. And in the academy, he led quietly and consistently. He mentored younger recruits, offered perspective when it mattered most, and modeled what it meant to be part of a team. Though he was older than many of his classmates, he never placed himself above them. He earned respect through humility, preparation, and just good old-fashioned hard work and integrity. Graduating from the St. Paul Fire Academy was a fulfillment of a dream for Tim. Wearing this badge mattered to him. Serving this city mattered to him. And even in the brief time he was with us, his presence and leadership made a lasting impact on those who trained with and worked alongside of him. Tim's life was defined by service, and even in death, he continued to give. In one final selfless act, Tim chose to be an organ donor. In the midst of an unimaginable loss, his family honored that wish. And because of Tim, lives will be saved. His legacy will continue not only in memory, but in the lives of people he will never meet. And because of Tim, I renewed my license 4 days ago, and I too became an organ donor. As a fire chief, I have stood at many academy graduations, welcoming new firefighters into our department. And just days ago, I stood at Tim's academy ceremony, handing out badges where I handed Tim his St. Paul Fire badge. But that moment was different because I'm retiring tomorrow. Tomorrow is my last day. And as I stood there, really I felt a wave of emotion. I looked out and saw tears in my wife's eyes, and suddenly I became choked up. In that moment, it really became real to me. And I realized that this was the last time I would hand out those badges. The last time I would put on this Class A. And I felt the weight and pride of what it truly means to welcome somebody into this profession, into this family. But when I later heard the news about Tim, I was heartbroken. I felt the pain of the women and men of our department. I felt the pain of the many current and former people Tim had served with throughout his life. But the deepest of all, I felt the pain of his wife, Andrea, and their family and friends. And someone said to me, "I'm sorry you have to go out this way." And I know they meant well, but I don't see it that way. Every one of us who has ever put on a uniform does so to serve others. And I'm grateful and honored that I'm still here to lead our department through a moment like this, to make sure our people are okay, to ensure they lean on Tim's memory, lean on each other, and continue to serve in the way that Tim did. And most of all, I'm honored to stand here today to celebrate Tim, to ensure his life of service and dedication is recognized, it's celebrated, and not forgotten. And finally, to Andrea and Tim's family and friends, in moments like this, it becomes clear how strong the fire family is. This room full of people are here to show you that we mourn with you. We stand with you in this incredibly difficult time. And we want you to know that you and Tim are forever part of our family. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Higgs. You've heard the impact Tim had in his time with all 3 fire departments. Captain Joshua Rouse worked with Tim probably more than anyone here and would like to share the Tim he knew with you today. Captain Rouse.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here to mourn and to celebrate the life of Timothy Bertz. Among many things, Tim was a son, a brother, an uncle, a mentor. Tim was also a proud serviceman in the United States Navy as a Navy SEAL, a firefighter and EMT for agencies such as Lino EMS, Lino Lakes Fire Department, St. Paul Fire Department, and the Harris Fire Department. Lastly, but most important in Tim's eyes, was a husband to his wife, Andrea. My name is Joshua Rouse, and I had the pleasure of serving in multiple agencies and becoming friends over a short but eventful time with Tim. As all of you know, due to the fact that you're all here, Tim had a way of becoming a part of your life, but not in the classical sense. He really became a part of it. A few years ago, Tim joined our local fire department in Harris. Quickly, Tim began to be a crucial member of what we are and stand for today. My personal experiences started with Tim as a friendship late in 2023 with cleaning up a messy storage room at our hall. In that time, he got to be my punching bag with life frustrations and career aspirations and pondering where one fits here in this time. At this time, Tim encouraged and motivated me to go back to school and obtain my EMT for a better chance at becoming a full-time firefighter. Soon following, I proudly told him of a program at Pine Technical Community College that worked with my work schedule that I was going to sign up for. To which his response is, "When are we starting?" Tim always was a man to walk into any room with you and fight for you in any room that you aren't in. I'm incredibly lucky to have had Tim beside me throughout our time together. He's taught me how to be a good student, show me what it takes to be a strong leader, and a good teammate to your spouse, and show me the true meaning of brotherhood. I pondered back at what I thought was just a simple day of shooting bow, a full archery draw, solving the world's problems, or just letting arrows fly side by side while having a discrete competition on who hit a closer grouping, or who got to the truck and geared up faster while working shift together. But my favorite memories of all are sitting around the table, talking smack, telling stories about fire calls and all the work we did, or how dirty our gear got, or whose gear was more dirty based on who did more work. If you had the pleasure of being near this debate, you understand. Some of my favorite memories of my time with Tim are when we were in EMT school together, and all of the hilarious jokes to us that our teacher, Mr. Singh, probably didn't think were very funny at the time. Or showing me how to read sign for deer and stay concealed from them in preparation for me to bow hunt my first year. This year, with his old Matthews bow that he gave me. Tim showed me the importance of camaraderie and discipline, loyalty, and care for the job that's necessary for you to be the best you could be, and be the man or woman you would want showing up to your loved one's emergency, and how to be a good man with strong values and dedication to service and family. Tim, I'll miss our friendship, but I'll cherish your message of trying to help everyone around you stay encouraged, be uplifting to all, and cherish on friends chasing a dream. And cheer on friends chasing a dream. Also lend a hand to anyone if needed, whenever it's convenient or not. Andrea, thank you for letting us become part of Tim and yours lives. And thank you for letting me speak today. It's an honor. Tim, thank you for all the great memories of, forgive my language, talking shit, hoping to be the first in on a fire, or listening to music in the back of our favorite truck, Engine 3, while driving for hours listening to NWA or slow slag country songs, hoping to get toned out for a chance to do our job together. Love you, brother. I'll see you at the big one. I got dibs on the 4-foot hook.
Thank you, Josh. There are two other traditions commonly used in a ceremony of a fallen firefighter: the last alarm and the IAFF Medal of Honor. The first of these is the last alarm. IAFF Local 21 President Kyle Thornburg will deliver the last alarm.
The sound of a bell holds special significance for firefighters. Historically, the toll of a bell summoned members to the fire station. It signaled the beginning of their tour of duty, and when the call was completed, the bell rang again to indicate that the company had returned home to quarters. When an individual takes their oath to become a St. Paul firefighter, their greatest act of bravery has been accomplished. Everything that follows is in the line of work. In the St. Paul Fire Department, the alarm code 115 signifies that Brother Bertz has returned home to quarters. The Local 21 Honor Guard will now ring out that code to welcome home Firefighter Timothy Bertz. Welcome home, brother. The International Association of Firefighters honors the sacrifice made by IAFF members who serve as professional firefighters and emergency medical personnel and have given their lives in the line of duty. I now invite the 5th District Vice President of the International Association of Firefighters, Malin Mitchell, and Local 21 Chair Officers to present the IAFF's Line of Duty Death Medal of Honor.
Minnesota Pipes and Drums. Thank you to the Minnesota Pipes and Drums. That's going to be a tough thing to follow. Though I wish it were under different circumstances, over the past few days, I had the opportunity to spend time with Andrea, Rick, Sandy, and Katie, and many of the members of Tim's family, coworkers, and friends. I've listened to, as they shared memories and watched those that loved Tim come and pay respects and support each other. I've learned much about Tim that I hadn't heard before. Some of the stories sound more like a movie script than real life, whatever that is. He has a stack of medals earned under circumstances that are classified and may never be fully known. I'm guessing if we knew the extent of his experience, we would marvel at the extraordinary life he lived and the way he did it. That life might have been enough for most people, but Tim's call to serve others was strong. We have heard it said that Tim was living out his lifelong dream by becoming a firefighter, how he was drawn to ways he could serve his community and those he loves. We have heard stories of his remarkable military career, followed by an equally remarkable federal agency career. We have heard of his penchant for pushing the limits in every challenge he has taken. 100 miles an hour with his hair on fire, right, Rick? We have also heard stories of Tim's dedication to those he loved, his willingness to help anyone and everyone. As I have watched and listened over the last few days, a few words you have heard today come to mind. Remarkable, extraordinary. While those words are true of Tim, they also describe what I've witnessed and heard about Andrea, who has spent the last few days making sure that everyone was able to pay their respects to Tim while ensuring that Tim was honored in the right ways. Her strength is remarkable, and kindness and kind heart obvious. People find each other, and I believe Tim found that same strength, determination, kindness, and desire to put others before self that he embodied in Andrea. Rick and Sandy, in spending a few moments with you, it's easy to see where Tim's attributes came from. And Katie, watching you interact with family and friends these past few days, it didn't take very long to see that you have many of those same attributes and shared a special bond with your brother. We have heard how lucky Tim felt to be able to join the St. Paul Fire Department while maintaining his positions within the Harris Fire Department and Lino Lakes Fire Department. He shared with me how lucky he felt to be able to do those things while being able to be home with Andrea. He had found camaraderie similar to that found in his military career and with his federal team, and he described this as the best of both worlds. Tim felt lucky. I've come to learn that we are the lucky ones. No matter if it were 8 weeks or 30 plus years, all of us were lucky to have known Tim, even if for a just short time. Tim has left quite a legacy, as well as many that admire and love him, but he also left us with an opportunity to take it from here, as he would have, with the same enthusiasm, the same generosity and kindness, and the same all-in, all-the-time attitude. This concludes the formal ceremony and begins the opportunity to remember Tim in our daily lives and support his family as he would have done for any of ours. Andrea would like to invite anyone who would like to pay their respects to have an opportunity to have that opportunity following the exit of the family at the front of the sanctuary. On behalf of all of us, rest easy, Tim. We've got it from here.
Honor guard, take your post. All personnel, all visitors, please rise. While the family exits